Okay, so this is the digestive lab. You have several of these diagrams. Um, you have one that's similar to one of the models that we're going to look at. We use this one for the 3 pairs of salivary glands. All of this is the parotid gland. This would be the submandibular gland, and this would be the sublingual gland. Now, they're showing it here on the mid-sagittal section, but they've superimposed it because these are lateral, not medial. If you blow this up, you can see the tongue, the hard palate, and the soft palate. You can see the esophagus goes behind the aorta. It goes through the diaphragm and behind the liver. Then you have the gastroesophageal sphincter. You can also see that here. You can do the stomach over there, but we're going to use this bigger one. And so the entryway to the stomach is called the forestomach or the cardiac stomach. The domed upper region is the fundus of the stomach. The body of the stomach is the main portion. And then the narrow area is the pyloric stomach. It terminates with the pyloric sphincter. The sphincters are thick rings of smooth muscle tissue. The pyloric valve can also, or sphincter, can also cause problems, especially in babies. Pyloric stenosis is when this doesn't open all the way. And so they keep regurgitating or vomiting back up their food. It gets there, it can't go any farther, so it comes back up. And so the cool thing is that a lot of times just running the scope down there and pushing the scope, the tube through that opening, through that sphincter is enough to stimulate the sphincter to start working properly. It doesn't always fix it, but it can. Okay. Back over here, the stomach is going to turn, make a curve, and come down and go behind this. And that would be the beginning of the small intestine. So the beginning of the small intestine is called the duodenum. It's the first 18 inches. After that, half of it is jejunum and half of it is ileum. So we can't string it out on the diagram and we can't string it out on the models. So for testing purposes, This upper portion is the jejunum, and down here would be the ileum. Something else it doesn't show in your diagram is the terminal end of the ileum. And again, we'll use dotted lines because it would be behind all this. And the ileum is going to end in a tube that goes into the cecum. And so right here, there would be the ileocecal valve or ileocecal sphincter. This is something that still tends to have the word valve, but it's not like a heart valve. It is a sphincter. Okay. Then you have these segments of the colon. You have the cecum. You have the ascending colon. It goes across as the transverse colon. It comes down as the descending colon. And then you have the sigmoid colon, which is going to start here at the first curve and then the sigmoid colon comes up and makes a U-turn, comes up and makes a U-turn. So you have this curve and you have this curve of the sigmoid colon. Then you have the rectum and the anus. Now the anus has an internal sphincter, and then surrounding it there is an external sphincter. So they're right next to each other. They surround each other. All right. Then you have the lobes of the liver. And for some stupid reason, they didn't put the falciform ligament on the big picture. They did put the falciform ligament here, but they didn't draw it in here. So this is the right lobe of the liver, right lobe of the liver, right lobe of the liver. And this would be the left lobe of the liver. And this is the edge. This would be the left lobe of the liver. Embedded in the dorsal side of the right lobe, you have the caudate lobe, which is a rectangle right next to the inferior vena cava, and the quadrate lobe, which is typically near the gallbladder. Okay, again, don't forget to zoom in to see where I've pointed towards things. Okay, so Over here, we have the gallbladder, and we have the gallbladder here. You can see the hepatic ducts. You can see the common hepatic duct. You can see the cystic duct and the common bile duct. This would be part of the duodenum, and this is the pancreas. All right, so then let's take a look at the models. Here you have the hard palate, the tongue, which is going to be all of this, the soft palate, the esophagus, the gastroesophageal sphincter, the forestomach, the fundus of the stomach, body of the stomach on the inside, body of the stomach. You can see the fundus here, cardiac or forestomach, the pyloric stomach, pyloric sphincter, duodenum, jejunum, ileum, ileocecal valve, cecum, ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, the sigmoid colon, rectum. There's an anus on this one, but I guess I didn't take a picture that far down. You can see the pancreas. You can see the common bile duct. You can see the left lobe of the liver, the right lobe of the liver, the gallbladder, the cystic duct, the quadrate lobe of the liver, okay, parotid gland, submandibular gland, esophagus, left lobe of the liver, right lobe of the liver, gallbladder. You can see the body of the stomach and the pyloric stomach, pancreas. You can see the ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, gastroesophageal sphincter, cardiac stomach, fundus of the stomach, body of the stomach, pyloric stomach, pyloric sphincter, duodenum, gallbladder, cystic duct, common hepatic duct, and a bit of the common bile duct. Cecum, ileocecal valve, ileum, jejunum, ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, and rectum. Same thing that we used for respiratory, hard palate, soft palate, tongue. Now this is the one that looks like one of the diagrams in your pages, although, yeah, it does show that. Okay, so we have gallbladder, you have hepatic ducts, common hepatic duct, you have the cystic duct, and the common bile duct. Duodenum, all of this would be the pancreas. And then just for referencing back to what we already covered, spleen, kidney, adrenal gland, kidney. Okay, on the full muscle model, you can see the parotid gland and the submandibular gland. You can see the gastroesophageal sphincter, the cardiac stomach, the fundus of the stomach, the body of the stomach, the pyloric stomach, here you can see the esophagus, left lobe of the liver, right lobe of the liver, and a little bit of the body of the stomach. Left lobe of the liver, right lobe of the liver, teeny tiny little bit of the gallbladder, body of the stomach, pyloric stomach, transverse colon, cecum, ascending colon a little bit, jejunum, descending colon, ileum. Posterior side of the liver, you can see the left lobe of the liver, right lobe of the liver, quadrate lobe of the liver, and caudate lobe of the liver, and the gallbladder. Here you can see the pancreas, part of the duodenum, the end of the sigmoid colon, beginning of the rectum. Okay, I did. All right, different full muscle model. Again, parotid gland, submandibular gland, esophagus, stomach, which they pulled out, gastroesophageal sphincter, cardiac stomach, oh, come on. Okay, there we go. All right, so the fundus of the stomach, body of the stomach, pyloric stomach, caudate lobe of the liver, left lobe of the liver, right lobe of the liver, quadrate lobe of the liver, gallbladder, cystic duct. I'm not sure why that's there. But that should be the common bile duct. Okay, left lobe of the liver, right lobe of the liver, body of the stomach, pyloric stomach, transverse colon, ascending colon, cecum, jejunum, ileum, descending colon, sigmoid colon, pancreas. This is behind the liver and the stomach, transverse colon. Now, if you take this piece out here, oops, this whole piece and turn it around, that is where you can see the mesentery, all of this white. You can see part of the pancreas, you can see the duodenum, the common bile duct. So this would be the cecum because there's the appendix, ascending colon, descending colon, and then part of the sigmoid colon. Okay, and so that's the end of the digestive lab. Again, don't forget to go back over these. Don't forget to get your functions out of your lecture notes. And don't forget to use Anatomy and Physiology Revealed because it also has the diagrams.